On Target Institute presents a teaching from the Men on Target small group curriculum. Now with today's session, On Target founder Vince D'Acchioli.
Hello men, how you doing? And welcome to Session 30 in Module 4, dealing with understanding the differences between men and women. This is A Man and His Wife, Part 2. If you remember in our last session, we explored the 4 different areas that we kind of have that help us understand our differences. And we unpacked 3 of the 4 and left this one, which goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden and talks about the different fears and needs of men and women as a result of the curse that happened in the garden. It all started there, guys. Let's start by reviewing the story and picking it up in Genesis 3:16. To the woman he said, I will greatly increase your pains in childbearing. With pain you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. Now, guys, let me caution us there. Rule over does not mean lord it over. And so it's very important that we understand that. What happened as a result of that is a woman's desire is for safety and protection. Her desire, her greatest need is security. Listen, her greatest fear is abandonment. And this is what happened as a result of the curse placed upon the woman. She desires her husband. And guys, when you think back, it all started back there. Adam and Eve had it made, did they not? They walked and talked with God. They had an abundance and variety of food. And look at what that sin did. It's just incredible. And we've been trying to overcome that ever since. Ever since the curse, a woman's greatest desire is for security. Now, what about the man? Genesis 3:17. To Adam he said, watch this, because you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. Watch, cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil you will eat food from it all the days of your life. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground. Now, I want to remind all of us, the concept of work is pre-fall. But now, as a result of sin, the curse now makes it difficult. It's going to make it hard for us to overcome our greatest need, which is significance. We need to feel significant, guys, and our greatest fear is failure. Now, how men and women respond to fear is very, very different. A man, when he feels like a failure, he feels like he's really not hitting on all cylinders, things aren't working for him well, maybe you're falling behind at work, you feel like you're just a failure in different areas of your life. Typically, the way we respond is we withdraw. We become withdrawn, we become distant, and we like to hide out. We become cold and shallow sometimes, preoccupied. We emotionally, oftentimes, we just check out. That's a typical response of a man who feels like a failure. What about the woman? When a woman is in fear, when a woman feels like she's been abandoned, and by the way, abandonment to a woman, guys, could be something as simple as reading the newspaper while she's talking with you. A woman really needs to feel like you're paying attention to her. And when she feels abandoned, she does not withdraw. Watch this. She becomes critical. She actually attacks. Let me pause here for a second and talk about something oftentimes that's not really preached a lot in our churches today. You know in the Bible where Paul talks about women being quiet in the church, and I've often wondered, what does that word quiet really mean? Well, it's taken from the word hesushia, which when translated means literally to step back and live quiet and orderly lives. Listen, guys, here's what Paul was saying to the woman. He was understanding her nature. A woman's nature, if a man's not stepping up, is to fill the vacuum. She will go in and make it happen. A woman's nature is if it's not happening, she will lean toward becoming critical. What Paul was saying is, look, ladies, resist your temptation to do that and to be critical. Step back and live quiet and orderly lives, and pray for and encourage your men to step in and take their rightful position as spiritual leader in your home and in the church. That's what really Paul was saying. But when a woman feels abandoned, she is critical typically. She becomes demanding, negative, there's very little support, and she will avoid intimacy. We don't have time to get into all of that, but this is what typically happens when a man and a woman understands they're fearful and they understand how this whole cycle works. The enemy uses this to destroy us. So here's a typical scene. I'm going to describe many of your relationships right now. A woman feels like she's abandoned. So what does she do? She attacks you. She attacks the man. When a woman attacks the man, what happens? What does a man do? When he feels like a failure, he withdraws. When a woman withdraws, when a man withdraws, what does the woman do? She feels abandoned. When she feels abandoned, what does she do? She attacks. You can begin to see this is a vicious cycle. It's a no-win cycle. Okay? And so, listen, guys, the sign of spiritual maturity in a relationship is when we understand this is going on and we step in and we do something about it. Whose job is it to break the cycle, guys? I know we're reluctant sometimes to admit this, but if you want to be the spiritual head of your home, it's your job to understand this is going on and to step in and break the cycle. Now, I'm not saying that the spouse can't do that as well. There have been times in my relationship with Cindy where she has understood before me that this is going on in our relationship, and what she'll do is say, okay, wait a minute, the enemy is getting us here. Let's stop for a second, grab hands, and we pray through it. And I give her credit for that. But you got to be mature enough to understand this is going on. Here's how this works. Typically, and you'll see it on the screen, when we do a couples conference together, my wife and I, we bring these rocks. One rock says significance. That's my rock. That's my need for feeling like I'm not a failure, feeling significant. And she brings her rock for security, and we bring them together for this relationship. And here's where we make the mistake. We exchange the rocks. She gives me her rock, which is her need for security, anticipating that I'm going to fulfill that need in her, and I give her my rock, indicating my need for significance. And when we're in a live setting, typically what we do is Cindy starts talking about this, and I take her rock for security, and I'm looking at it, and I start throwing it up in the air, a kind of an illustration of I'm not taking her need for security very seriously. In fact, I might even drop it on the floor, and the audience starts to laugh, and really what's happening here is I'm not meeting her need. And the fact of the matter is she's not meeting mine either. So what do? We grab them back. We take those rocks back, because at the end of the day, we have to have those needs met. How do we get them met? Well, sadly, sometimes, guys, we try to find somebody else that will meet that need. It could be for a woman, her kids, or it could be for a man, maybe his car or his boat, or sadly, it might even be we try to take that need for significance and give that rock to another woman. And that's what leads to destruction in a relationship. At the end of the day, these needs need to be met. But here's the deal, guys. If it all started with a curse, let me ask you a question. Who is the only one that can redeem a curse? It is only God. It started with God, and God is the only one that can meet it. We were never meant, listen, to get our needs met on a lateral plane. We were meant to get our needs met on the vertical plane, and if you go, some of you have seen the triangle, with God at the top is the triangle, the man and the woman, and as the man and the woman get their needs and fears kind of understood and their needs met by God, He uniquely enables us to meet each other's needs. It all gets back to our relationship with the Lord. And guys, that's the secret. You remember a few weeks back we talked about the secret to life. It's putting God between us and all of our circumstances. At the end of the day, it's all about God. Now, you don't use this to beat each other up either. You don't go to your spouse and say, well, you need to get your needs met by God. No, you look at it for you. You say, Lord, help me to have the kind of relationship with you so that I am enabled to take care of my wife and meet her unique needs of feeling safe and feeling secure. Take it as your own personal responsibility, guys. It's very important that you do that. What's the life implication of all of this? Now watch this. Not creating a sense of security for my wife will ultimately lead to serious difficulties in our marriage. Let me repeat that. Not creating a sense of security for my wife will ultimately lead to serious difficulties in our marriage. Guys, the security is not just financial, although that's really important. It's feeling like she's special, feeling like she's not being left out. She doesn't hear about stuff from a third party instead of from you when she believes it should have come from you. This is very, very important for you to understand and really live out in your marriage. Otherwise, it could lead to some serious difficulties. Life application. Here are some discussion questions now that we want you to get into in your times together with other men in your group. Try to remember a time when you experienced the no-win cycle. Try to remember a time when maybe you felt like a failure and your tendency to withdraw caused your wife to be overly critical. Guys, this is hard. I can't tell you how many times this has happened with me. But I'm learning, the older I get, I'm learning that when my wife tends to be more critical toward me, I can either resist it and get angry and get bitter and fight back, or I can step back and say, Lord, what are you trying to show me here? I must be doing something wrong, and I try to step up and get involved there. And I want to tell you something, guys. Nothing makes our spouse feel more secure than when she knows her man is serious about being intimate with the Lord. Nothing. When they know God, nothing makes them feel better than when we step up to the plate and they see us spending our quiet time and getting serious about spending time with the Lord. That makes them feel so good. So I want to encourage you that when this happens, to really go to God first. But talk about maybe a time when this may have happened in your relationship. And then number two, what practical things can I do to create a sense of security for my wife? What is it you're thinking maybe you're not doing now? And think about some practical things that you can go home and begin practicing today to make it better. And until next time, guys, don't forget about it.